Wait.
So Hubert here, big boy.
He's extra friendly, which is kind of what we're trying to, I know, we're trying to work on that. This is, okay, but he's a jumper.
Sure. I saw that you're just training with another dog, or your previous dog, correct?
Say it again.
You had done training like a previous dog.
Oh, yeah.
And then with Hubert, you've not done anything yet.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, just on my own.
Okay.
Nothing official, yeah. So, yeah.
And then you're looking for off-leash obedience.
Yes.
Okay. So tell me a bit more about Hubert and just like what you're looking to achieve with him.
So when he gets extra excited, which is almost all the time, when he sees other dogs, you can't get his attention back until the dog passes. Kind of like that with people, but not so much. So as far as the off-leash control, that's what I'm talking about, to have him pay attention to me a little more.
Okay.
And I've had him since I think April.
Okay.
And he's actually now getting a little more like stubborn, I would say. Okay. So he's almost getting worse than he was at the beginning as far as listening and paying attention. Okay. And that's on me. I mean, I do let him do pretty much anything he wants.
Okay.
I mean, within limits, of course, but
sure.
But that's kind of my theory. It's like, you know, you can do whatever as long as I say it's okay.
Sure.
And then when I say no, then you have to stop. So that's kind of what we've been doing. But for example, he used to walk really nicely, and now he just yanks off to one side or another if he smells something, you know, and I have to drag him back by force, that kind of thing. So that's one thing. Then the jumping is kind of, I want to control it a little better because he wants to kiss everybody, so he jumps up, but like, I mean, I'm all like bleeding because his claws are very sharp and strong. So just to have a little calmer meeting with folks. And then the last thing, which is actually why I called now, was that he never had, well, he wasn't very vocal at all or anything, except this howling that he does when he's super happy.
Okay.
But we've had 2 incidents now where he has started to growl at people.
Okay.
And it's very specific though. It was the first time, wait, hey. Yeah, okay. The first time was, he was surrounded by a group of people, like drunk people, and they were like kissing on him because we get stopped on the street all the time. Want to pet him, and I think he just got overwhelmed with so many people. But what was funny was the guy who started it all was sticking his face in Hubert's face, and Hubert was barking and growling, but never snapped or anything, which was to me impressive. But you know, and then. I'm pretty sure it was the same guy. He saw us outside of a Chipotle, whatever, and there was like another woman there, and they all kind of gathered around us at the entrance wanting to pet him again. And at that point, he got really frustrated, and I kind of had him turned away from the people, and I stuck my hand out to make sure that he doesn't get to them, and he did like snap, you know, when my hand was there. Actually, once he snapped like on the leash and then once on my hand. Okay. So since there were these 2 things, I thought I'll bring him in to just make sure that he's a little calmer.
Okay.
He's 4.5 according to the notes, but he basically acts like a puppy. So that might be a better way. I should have started with that to explain everything.
Okay, so going back to that second incident outside the Chipotle, you know, you're approached by the man and the woman. And they're coming in, and you were trying to restrain?
Oh, sorry, no. I take him everywhere, and there's some places where you can't, in my neighborhood, where you can't bring him. So I had him tied up right outside as I pick up my order. Okay. And the whole situation was, he was outside, which he always is, and that's fine. And I left my bag of groceries out there so I wouldn't have to drag it around. these two women came by because I guess he started chewing up some food.
Oh, sure.
So somehow there was an interaction between them, and then they walked in and were just looking out the window. And so when I walked out, one of the women followed me and was trying to explain about the food. And he gets really excited when I come back.
Oh.
So his energy's already really high,
Yep.
but in a good way. And at the same time, while I'm trying to listen to what this woman's saying, the guy came in and he's like, "Oh my God, can I kiss your dog?" And just goes at it, so I kind of got in between. So,
I see.
and it was like a really small area, like right by the door, so
Correct.
we couldn't like get him calm or anything.
And then he went for the leash in your hand, like a quick little snap.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
and he was growling and barking, not in a happy way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
No, he's really good other than that. But he has like real puppy behavior, except he's way stronger than a puppy, and so.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah, like we had like my mom and a neighbor of mine who I used to babysit him sometimes. They're really small people, and this was early on, so he doesn't really do it as much now. But he knocked them over and started chewing on their arm, and like their arm would bleed, but it was all just play.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean with the jumping. Like he just gets out there, and it takes a while to bring him back.
Okay. With the what training have you done?
Oh,
I saw you had like your pouch here for like.
Oh yeah. I've done a lot of. Okay, so I did a lot of clicker training many years ago, and that was like a really hot thing. And then some behavioral stuff with a previous dog. It was, I think, a reactive dog at that time. So it was something like that.
Okay.
And then I did something with my mom through a company, Sit Means Sit,
Yeah.
where they have that collar and they constantly push the button.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was just unfortunate. But it wasn't on him or my dogs, but anyway, that didn't work. And so all I do mostly is I have the basic knowledge of stuff. So we'll just walk and I'll give him some commands and reward him when he does it well.
Okay. So you're familiar with the e-collar then? Because that's the collar that they use at Sit Means Sit.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I'm assuming before reaching out, like you researched us and how we train?
Yeah.
Okay, so we do use e-collar.
Yeah.
And prong collar, and I'll explain more on that.
Okay.
Anything else about Hubert that I should know, or?
I don't think so. So just right now, he's a little, I think, under the weather. I've taken him to the vet twice, and the vet just keeps saying that it's allergies.
Okay.
I don't think it is. So.
What are you saying?
He's really itching all the time, and it's been like 2 months straight. And then he's super hot all the time, so maybe he's a little uncomfortable. And like today, for whatever reason, he was really sluggish, which is pretty much never happened.
Outside or there?
Yeah, outside. Yeah.
Might be the humidity.
Yeah, he hates the heat. I forgot. Maybe,
Yeah.
okay, because I'm freaking out maybe more.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
So when it comes to guys like him, he's solid. That the heat really affects him.
Okay.
So and then the humidity, like this weather right now, my pit, because she's like 60 pounds. She's she's muscle.
Yeah.
And heat and humidity are not her thing. She's got like maybe a 10 to 15 minute stamina.
Okay.
And she's like, she's
Okay.
So that's just
right.
their build and the temperature. I bet you when fall officially kicks in and it's cooler in the wintertime, you're probably gonna see him at more discomfort.
Okay.
Because the weather for him is more his weather. And then come back summer,
Right.
the humidity, you're probably gonna see the same thing here really. When it comes to the itching a lot, has his food changed in the past 2 months?
No, in fact, it's actually, at first I started doing it myself, where I started taking out some of the most, like the highest allergy rated things like beef and cheese, that kind of stuff. And then now I'm like down on the chicken, but he's also on some meds from the vet, but it doesn't seem to help. But I think I narrowed it down, to water, because as he gets better, sometimes we'll go to the beach, it's his favorite thing of all things, and then afterwards he's itching even more. So then, like the next day, I'll wash him, and he's itching even more from the washing.
Interesting.
So, yeah, but that's just from my observation.
Sure.
So it could be something completely different, but I think it's like the drying of the skin.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that are allergic to water, so I don't see why a dog couldn't be allergic to water.
Yeah, I think it dries out his skin or something.
And did you use like a hypoallergenic type of shampoo?
Yeah.
I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's almost always the first thing that I think about when I hear about allergies is it's either going to be dietary, or in my Pitt's case, she's seasonal. So she got a allergy shot recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which has helped out a lot. I've had a few clients do the allergy shot.
Huh.
And it makes a big difference.
Okay.
Because we were giving her Benadryl and like Zyrtec, but it would only do so much to tone down the allergies. So then I just gave it, knowing I had clients that had it done and then had great results from it. I had it done with her as well, and it's made a world of a difference for her.
Okay.
So, but her paws would swell up. She would get hives. She would get really red. Like,
his eyes like swell up red. It almost looked like he had palsy, like they were kind of like droopy like that.
Sure.
For about a week or two. So.
Yeah, I forgot what the name of it was, but if you ask the vet and you decide that you want to try it, it's made a world of difference.
Okay, no, that's awesome because I'm actually planning on going to the vet because it's like, I feel like he's just uncomfortable for months. And then I thought, well, maybe that's part of his behavior changing a little bit because he's already like irritated, his skin is.
Sure.
So, come here.
But from what I can see here, like I don't see any redness or anything right now.
No, it's just the itching.
Gotcha. Okay, so when it comes to like the stuff that you saw in those two interactions, in my opinion, you're correct that he was overwhelmed. And then on the second one, you came out and he was escalated, right? And then you add in this stressor, and then so excitement tends to be read as happy, right? A lot of people are like, oh, the dog's happy, and the dog's excited. And excitement is unstable, and it can very easily just push into an aggressive or reactive response. Because the dog's already like this, and then you add something, and then they just flip. So that all makes sense, and the fact that you're trying to body block him created some frustration, and it was kind of a like, get out the way. Okay, but if he was aggressive or intended to do harm, like it would have happened.
I figured. I don't think this is an aggressive dog at all.
No.
He's just so hyper all the time.
Correct.
This is like not, this is just unusual.
Sure. So yeah, those situations make sense to me. So there's this kind of ideology now where like all dogs should love everyone and everything. And in my book, that's not the case. Just like with humans, like imagine if you're outside and then you're just walking, minding your business, and then you get surrounded by a group of drunk people and they're just like trying to touch you. Like you're not gonna defend yourself, right? Right. So it's the same thing for the dog. Now, are there some dogs that can tolerate it? Yeah, you know, there is, but not all dogs can tolerate it. And you know, when I always put things in the perspective of a human, you know, they're like, oh, like, you know, yeah, you know, you're right, you know, I wouldn't like it. I'm like, well, then why do we expect our dog to? Just because they can doesn't mean they should.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
So, same thing, you know, at the Chipotle, like he's a dog, like there's dogs everywhere. People really should be more respectful of the dog's boundaries.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're thinking like dogs were put here on this earth for us to like pet and touch.
Right.
You know, they're here for our enjoyment.
Yeah.
And that's not how that works.
Yeah.
Okay? So, I'm not saying that we can't do anything about it, but I understand where he's coming from.
Right.
And so, like, I had a gentleman whose dog was human aggressive, for example, many years ago. And he used to lunge after people, you couldn't walk him anywhere. So obviously, not a safe dog. So we resolved all that reactivity. He could walk by people, he lived in the South, he lived no problem. But then one day he was sitting at a red light, his dog was sitting next to him, he had already started training and everything like that, his dog was doing great, no more lunging. And then someone, let's say he was facing this way with his dog, someone from behind him just looked and pet his dog like this. The dog bit the person. And the person got mad, oh my God, you know, your dog, you know, effing bit me. And started yelling at my client. And the client's like, if you would have just told me or asked me, I would have told you, no, my dog doesn't like to be touched. He's like, you completely blindsided us.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, that's not my fault. That's not your fault. My dog's leashed up. My dog's next to me. My dog's trained. Like, and especially for someone whose dog used to try to actively go after people.
Right.
You know, so he's like, you don't know.
Yeah.
So it was this big kind of fiasco. But, you know, and my client came back to me. Of course, he felt conflicted because he's like, my dog bit someone. I understand why he bit them, but like I feel, bad. I'm like, look, you're right. You were sitting there at the corner, minding your business. You had your dog next to you. You did everything like you're supposed to. Your dog was not being a problem until someone blindsided you and made contact with your dog without your consent. And that's why they got bit.
Yeah.
And I said, imagine if you're standing at the red light and someone just came up to you and started petting, not petting, but like touching you.
Yeah.
You know, like, whoa, like get off of me. But as humans, we're more inclined to use words. Right? Sure. But some people are more inclined to use physicality. Yeah. It depends on personality type. Yeah. So in that case, his dog was more of the confrontational type. So he bit the guy like that, right? But it all made sense. I'm like, I would expect that too. Right. This is why, people should be asking for permission and not just taking it upon themselves to just touch people's dogs. Yeah. And even though, that was years ago, and even to this day, I still get that happening to clients. Like I had another client who was walking in with their dog, again, reactive to everything. No more reactivity. They're just walking their dog, and some lady just turns and goes, oh my God, I love Australian Shepherds. And she like reached down as they were walking, and the dog just lunged at her, right? And they came back to like, and I was like, well, because the lady went into your dog's personal space. I'm like, and since we had started training, I was like, how many reactive moments have you seen? They're like, almost none. I'm like, right. So that's not on your dog, that's on the human for disrespecting or bypassing a dog's boundaries. Yeah. Okay. So the way that I can help here is with the energy, like keeping him more passive. That's not a problem. Like I can show you how to do that. The biggest issue would be, let's say, as he gets more comfortable with you, which typically this would have happened much earlier. You've had him for 6 months, correct? Yeah. Typically stuff like this starts to happen around 2 weeks to a month after you get a dog, is when we start to see clear behavioral issues.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so like it's because so imagine like growing up, if you're at one school and in the middle of the year you move and go to a different school, right? You're just like, you're out of place. And then after you make friends, you start to talk to people, and then after a couple of weeks, like you kind of know your place, right? It's the same thing for your dog.
Okay.
So they go from like the rescue or whatever into the home, so he's out of place. So it typically takes 2 to 4 weeks for a dog to figure out where their place is within the home. And then we start to see things like reactivity, aggression towards dogs, humans, what have you. It's usually around that time frame. Yeah. Okay. So the fact that you're seeing this later, I would assume it's mainly it's more so that it was kind of always there, but maybe we weren't in a situation where it was able to present itself, where he had a group of people just kind of come at him, so then you wouldn't know that until you actually see it. Yeah. So when it comes to stuff like that, we have to advocate for him, because we can't force him to do something that he's already uncomfortable with, because that's going to create distrust.
Yeah.
I
think I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that
it's not like him being
correct. It's not like regressing or something or changing his behavior.
Yeah, because if it was legitimate like human aggression and or reactivity, it would be much more prevalent, and it would be, again, would have happened 5 months ago.
Right. Okay,
and it would be kind of like what I said with that one gentleman, like he couldn't even walk his dog. But the client I just had before you was this Roddy mix, and he couldn't even walk his dog, and now he can walk his dog. Yeah. Okay, so those are clear reactivity cases. And then like the first time I met him for the consultation, his dog lunged at me within seconds and continued to lunge. Yeah. And then today, like I actually touched her and she didn't do a thing. Wow. Okay, she tried to actually avoid me, but she did no kind of aggressive response. And I told him, like, because she's not as under stress anymore because of the training.
Sure.
So it's partially, I do have a very high standard for my dogs.
Okay. Yep.
However, at the same time, if I already know my dog doesn't like to be pet by 5 people at once, I would have to advocate for my dog and be like, you're not going to touch my dog. And I just keep moving. Okay, and if I have to be rude or curt, I'll be rude or curt no matter. Okay, because at the end of the day, if it's, well, I feel bad, I don't want to tell him no, or, you know, hurt someone's feelings, and then we push his boundaries, he's a big boy. And who's to say in like 5 years he decides like, you know what, I've had enough of this. I'm gonna actually bite someone now. Because that's how that happens. Is you know, I've had clients, you know, dog grew up with their child as a puppy, and then one day 5 years later the dog bites the kid. And they're like, oh my God, they grew up together, like they've known each other for 5 years, how does this happen? I was like, well, probably because you're letting your kid pull out their jowls and play with their ears and lay on top of them and sit on them and all that stuff for 5 years. And the dog goes, I had enough. And then decides to correct the kid. That's how that, like, stuff like that happens, you know? So, because if it were to be actual like child aggression, again, from day one, there would be signs of it. So that's how I can kind of pinpoint things or figure things out if it's like a true behavioral issue, okay? I think you have a dog that does have boundaries. He had clear opportunity both times, because I think the first time he said he was like kind of barking and like snapping, but didn't actually move forward.
No, he wasn't snapping, he was growling and barking. And the guy still had his face in my dog's face. I mean, I was holding on the leash to make sure he doesn't lunge, but even with the growling, he still allowed it to happen. So I was really impressed with him at the time.
So that's him taking on a lot of pressure. Okay. So, because imagine if you're just standing there, someone put their face and you don't know them right here.
That's true.
Okay. So anytime he does something, just take yourself and put yourself in that situation.
That's good.
And just think, how would I feel about this? Okay. And then that kind of gives you an idea of like, is this acceptable? Right? Does this make sense? And then, because there's some, like I had a lady ask me once, her neighbor came out, she was walking her dog, she had just gotten the dog with, you know, had just let out the dog within a couple weeks. Her neighbor came out and was like, oh my God, you got a new dog, can I pet her? And she said, yeah. And she started reaching for the dog, and she had her on a leash, and the dog kept curling around her and avoiding the person. Eventually, she ran out of leash and got stuck behind the owner, facing like this. And the lady came around and got bit right here. Okay. So she, you know, she had a dog called me, and she was like, you know, my dog should know better than to bite humans. Like, this is completely wrong. You know, my dog should like be, what was it like? I forgot how she phrased it, but essentially she was like, anyone should be able to touch my dog, and my dog needs to take it. Is essentially like what she said.
Yep.
And I was like, nope, that's not how it works. Your dog gave clear sign of I don't want to be touched before the bite actually happened. So in that case, I couldn't help her because of her thought process. You know, she was just like, dogs don't bite humans, that's wrong. And I'm like, that's not how that works. So when it comes to the tools that we use and how we can help control Hubert's behavior here, is when we think about e-collar and or prong collar, people typically think like punisher, or they think like, you know, like being mean to the dog. And I know you mentioned sit, mean sit, and I'm not quite sure how they do their remote, because I've had a few of their clients, and then they've all said the same thing, is that they're constantly, like you said earlier, constantly pressing the button, and they're really never stopping. And that doesn't make sense. Okay, so when we do you drive?
Actually, no.
Have you driven?
I mean, like I rent a car if I need to, like, today.
Have you ever been on the expressway?
Sure.
Have you ever had someone drive really close to you on the expressway? So it makes you feel uncomfortable, right? And you might speed up, you might switch lanes, you might not do anything, or you might hit the brakes. When we do that, they're doing that with the intention of kind of forcing you to do something. Whether or not it's what they want you to do is different, but that's called pressure. And the moment you were to like switch lanes, pressure would be resolved, and then they would just keep going, right? So it's pressure on when we need something, pressure off once they comply. Okay? So that's how e-collar is supposed to work. Same with prong collar. So like, let's say I'm trying to get him to lay on a bed, and I'm using the e-collar. The moment he steps on the bed, the e-collar would turn off. So that tells him, that's what I wanted you to do. Okay? And then if you were to step off, it would kick in again, and when he went back on, it would turn off.
Right.
So he's learning, oh, if I feel this, I go here, it goes away, and if I get off, it goes back on. If I go back, it turns off.
Yeah.
Okay, so the dog needs to learn pressure on, pressure off. So yeah, I've had quite a few of the sit and sit clients or ex-clients, and that's one of the most common things I hear from them. They're like, yeah, the entire time you're pressing the button. I'm like, that doesn't make sense because the pressure at some point should turn off.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
This is when he gets bored. This is normal behavior here.
Sure.
Because he's bored already, and then he's gonna want to play.
Sure. So what you can do here is you're gonna take your leash, you're gonna shorten it.
Yep.
And if you can, you're gonna try to twist him to where he's kind of facing towards me. So if he pushes rear that way, because dogs turn, yeah. Then just press his butt down, and then you're gonna just relax.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Good boy. So every time he gets up, if you feel like he's getting stimulated, you're just gonna do that. Okay. Yep.
Come here, you. That's why I have the treats always.
Okay. And press down. There you go. So yeah, with the remote collar, it has to turn off. There has to be some clear answer for the dog.
That makes sense, yeah.
That what they're doing is correct. Okay. So like, have you ever pulled up and pushed down to make a dog sit?
Well, all right, maybe not, but I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like once they do it, once they sit, you would stop doing this.
Yeah.
Like even this here, when you turned him,
right.
That's technically pressure.
Right. Okay.
And the moment he goes into it, you would release the pressure because he gave you what you wanted. Okay. So e-collar, that's fine, is the same kind of thing.
Yep.
So have you ever been to a chiropractor or physical therapist?
Sure. Yeah.
You've had the stim?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh
that's
yeah,
e-collar.
I know. Right. I tested it on myself.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a muscle contraction. It's that actually electrocuted your dog.
Yeah.
So the first thing that we always teach with remote collar is always the heel. Okay, how to walk without pulling.
Yeah.
The reason why we do this is because when a dog feels e-collar, if you've given no direction or information, dogs tend to want to move in response. So if I tap the collar and he feels it, he might move and then try to walk away from it because a dog's first instinct is typically flight response.
Sure.
So we use the heel, which is a moving behavior of walking, to allow the dog to feel the e-collar and be able to move in response to alleviate that need to move, okay? This helps him learn how pressure turns on and how it turns off without conflict.
Right.
So typically, like especially when we're dealing with reactivity, people will think that we're gonna make the dog be bad and just use the e-collar to like punish them, so to speak. And it's not that that's not an approach, because it is. It's just not the first approach. We always teach the dog the conversation of e-collar first, and then we see what does that resolve, and then we work on anything that might be lingering or residual.
Sure.
So the Rottweiler I saw earlier couldn't even walk past people.
Right.
I had one class with him. I saw him today, and he's like, I can walk past people. They don't have to cross the street anymore. And then on occasion, the dog would react towards dogs. Okay, but we already resolved a big chunk of reactivity just from the heel. Okay, so how it impacts him in terms of like the excitement and stuff is now you would have a means of disagreeing with the behavior to teach him to be more mindful of his mental state, right? So like here, you see how he's starting to move around and stuff?
Yep.
It's a bit of overstimulation. This isn't that bad.
Yeah.
Overstimulation is a dog's inability to relax. The brain is constantly like on go. So like they're like right now you just gave him a treat and he's like, okay, I'm gonna sniff myself, and then he might get up and walk over here and then lay down. Then you might sit up. Then he might walk towards you again and be like, hey, do you have another treat? Then he'll go do something else. See?
Yep.
So that's overstimulation.
Yeah.
Okay, is that he doesn't have an off switch.
Right.
So heel actually can teach them how to turn off. Okay, and then we start to see like this stuff here. Like all this stuff here would most likely go away.
Oh, okay.
With just teaching them how to walk correctly with e-collar. Okay, so it's not the heel, it's not the obedience that helps him. It's the muscle contraction. It's the consequence. Okay. It's the discipline behind the obedience, because I'm sure like he probably knows sit with food and like lay down. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So he knows the skills, But because there's no consequence to breaking the command or not performing the command, we get this, because it's not that serious. Once you put in consequence and it's okay, I have to lay down for the next 2 hours, otherwise I get corrected, then we start to see a shift in behavior, okay? So we're using what I call an indirect approach of teaching them structure, giving them consequence, and seeing how does this impact his behavior, okay? Now, let's say you do that stuff, and for whatever reason, he's still being overstimulated, okay? Well, now we can correct the behavior and teach him that being overstimulated is not allowed. So for me growing up, I was raised old school, I was spanked. So let's say my mom took me to church, and I was being too rambunctious for church because I was a young kid. You know, she might take me out to church and then give me a consequence of spanking and say, like, if you don't behave yourself, you know, there's going to be more, and then take me back into the situation. But I would have to, how do you say, I would understand that. Because I'm a human, I can process all this. If I don't want to get spanked again, I'm going to behave myself for the rest of the hour at church, okay? For him, he doesn't think that way. He's, he cannot connect. Like if you told him, hey buddy, if you move around too much, I'm gonna tap you on the collar. He doesn't look at that and go like, you know what, I want to avoid the tap, so I'm not gonna do it, okay? Yeah, so you see how he keeps...
Right. It's like, it doesn't happen a lot, but if I'm working, this happens, or like I said, I drag him to stores, and as soon as he gets bored, because there's no play time there, then he'll do weird things like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all this stuff would go away.
Okay.
Now here, like with you petting him, you're actually reinforcing that behavior. Okay.
I know.
Because he's looking for attention, and I understand what you're doing. You're trying to redirect him with the food or getting him to focus, but you're creating this cycle of him needing some kind of reinforcer, whether it be the food and or physical touch. Okay. Whereas he should, like if I brought my kitten here, she would just lay at my feet and not move for the entire time, and that's by default because she knows how to shut down.
I can't help it.
So, and when it comes to stuff like this, it doesn't matter, but you're missing discipline.
Yeah, I know. Right.
That's what's in. So you have reinforcement and affection, but there's no consequence of discipline. Okay. So, because I don't care what people do with their dogs. Like I get it. People get dogs for companionship. Right. But it's one thing when the entire relationship is food, affection, praise, and never don't do that, consequence, correction. Okay.
Yeah, actually, okay, that's exactly what I couldn't quite explain. That, you know, he can do whatever he wants, except when I say no.
Correct.
That's what I mean, because, fine, you know, right now, okay, I can play with him, it's okay, but let's say I'm on a Zoom call, you know, at work or something, then...
Correct.
Then it's a no.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, time and place, you know?
Yeah.
So like for me, in the house, I couldn't play baseball. My mom would say, take that over there to across, you know, in the field. And then I could play baseball, right? She didn't care that I did, she just cared where I did it.
Right.
So same thing for dogs. So and these are all things that, yes, you can address and set boundaries for. You're not being mean.
Yeah.
Boundaries are healthy. Okay?
Yeah.
So when it comes to length of time and cost and everything, it just comes down to how much control you want over Hubert, okay? So I have 3, 6, 9, and 12-week programs. They're like in the 6 to 12-week range, okay? If you did 6 classes, there would be 2 on the heel, which should resolve leash pulling, any leash reactivity, and help him learn how to be more passive, okay? Like, so stuff like here, like just sitting down and hanging out. He should be able to do this by default, no problem, okay? If that's all going well, it's really just, in your case, obedience, because I don't think you have a behavioral problem.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
The jumping on people would be simple because it's simply don't jump on people.
Yeah, I know.
Okay?
I try to do it a different way, where I gave him a command to jump, thinking that...
And then teaching him how to...
Yeah, but that doesn't help.
Yes. So now, if you want to teach him to jump up when you give him permission, that's fine. But then teaching him not to jump on his own accord, we would have to correct using the collar.
Yeah, that's the part I'm always missing in all the training I've done.
Yes. And like let's say he jumped on another dog, And that dog did not like it.
Yeah, that happens.
What would they do?
Well, okay, so the dog snaps and growls,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine. He doesn't understand it,
Mm-hmm.
so he thinks it's more play,
Yeah.
so he does it more and more.
Correct.
Yeah.
So right there, when you said he's jumped on a dog,
Yeah.
and that they've growled and snapped at him.
Yep.
So they're using physicality to correct him. Right? But he's not learned to take it serious yet.
Yeah.
Because since he's a sizable dog.
Yeah.
Right? So physically, even if they did make contact with him, he may not take it seriously because physically he's just hurt. Right? So it's kind of like a bully to a smaller kid.
Yeah, sure.
Right? The bully's like, oh, bro, I'm not going to take you serious.
Yeah.
So with the collar, we can actually calm him down for this dog.
Okay, because I forgot about that. That's actually something that started from the beginning. Like, we've been twice now asked to leave the dog parks because like the other dogs are aggressive. You can tell, showing teeth, the whole thing. No. But he doesn't get it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And he keeps jumping on it, and people come up to me and say, your dog doesn't belong here. He's being aggressive to all these dogs and whatever. Which is, it's totally not true, but it is true that he won't let go.
He has no
just
boundaries.
keep going and going and going,
Yes.
especially after the dogs that really don't like him, which is,
Yes.
I don't know why he picks those out. And just
Because
keeps going.
it's like a bully, right? A bully picks on kids to empower them. Or not kids, but like picks on someone weaker.
Sure. Okay.
Right? So
Yeah.
that's his entertainment. Is I'm gonna jump on you, I got this negative response, and this is fun.
Oh, okay.
And then he just pesters more.
Yeah,
Does that
that's
make
a
sense?
good word. Yeah,
Yes.
because he does that. Like, yeah,
So with the e-collar, we can actually address that.
great.
Okay? Because you can correct it without needing him to be on the leash.
Yeah,
Okay?
I would love to have that ultimately. I can, even walk him without a leash, and he can go run, but he has to keep checking in with me. Right now, he doesn't quite do that.
Okay.
He does a little bit, actually. It just depends on the situation. He won't do it if there's another dog or something else.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that can be addressed. Okay?
Okay.
So if you did 6, it'd be 2 on the healing
Yeah.
exercise. We see what does this resolve.
Mm-hmm.
A 3rd class on behavior potentially.
Mm-hmm.
His behavior with other dogs, jumping on people, just like stopping and correcting behavior.
Mm-hmm.
4th class, recall,
Yes.
which is commonly
Yes.
called. Recall does take the longest to teach
Yeah.
because you have to go to the park, put him on a leash,
Yeah.
and practice him coming back to you. So that's even post-training, like even if you do a 12-week program, it's months of training before you get a reliable recall, okay? But I give you the tools to get there,
Right.
it's just a matter of getting there.
Yep.
So that would be 4 classes. Classes 5 and 6 could be like stationary work, meaning let's say you want to take them to a restaurant and you don't want them like moving around all the time, just like to sit there and chill.
Yeah.
We can cover that.
Okay.
Stationary work is really easy. And then the 6 classes typically overview a lot of times, like
Sure.
just reviewing everything for the client.
Uh-huh.
If they feel like they got a really good handle on things and they want to learn something else, as long as I can get it done with the class, I don't care.
Great.
So some clients will either use it as an overview, use it to teach something that we've not covered yet, or they might save it, practice for a few months,
right.
and then come back and say like, this is where I have problems, okay? If you did 9 or 12-week programs, it just allows me to take you further with his obedience
Right.
to a more advanced level, okay?
Okay. Do I have to decide right away, or can I see, like, after 6 weeks if I need more time?
So you can do that, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
But what would happen is, let's say you did 6 classes,
Yeah.
and you're like, this is amazing, I want to get a fully off-leash trained dog, and you do another 6.
Okay.
6, I believe, is 1,000, so then you would pay 1,000, so that's 2,000.
Right.
Okay. If you did 12 up front, I think the cost is like $17.25. It's on my website.
Right.
But since you're saying you're committing up front, we give you a cheaper per class rate.
Sure. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't care how people approach it. At minimum, I put you at 6 classes, okay?
Right.
And then if you just think about it, and you're like, you know what, I would rather just, have a cheaper per class rate and I want to have a more advanced trained dog, then you can commit up front and then you get a cheaper rate, okay? Otherwise, you can do 6, go do your thing, come back 2 months later and do another 6, but then you'd be paying 1,000.
Right. Okay.
Okay?
I think I prefer that. I mean, just because I don't know, I have no, I don't think he needs, good lord, he needs that kind of, like his issues are so high up there that it's gonna be a slow process.
Correct.
But I don't know. So
So
what about like just doing like afterwards sets of 3, like either for a specific thing or reinforcing something that was in the same classes?
correct, and you can do that too. You would just be paying the rate of 3 classes.
Yeah, no, but that's fine, because
Yep.
that's, I think I'm just more comfortable with that because like 9 and 12 might be way too much. But after 6, I know how many more I would need.
Yeah.
Like another 6, more, just 3, I don't know.
Just-
Hey, boo, it's okay.
Yeah, I don't care. The minimum would be 6.
Right.
Okay, that I would recommend for you.
Oh, yeah, to start, yeah.
Yeah, where the issue is, like, let's say I see a case and I go, they need 6, but instead they do 3, is I go, that's not enough.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So yeah, if you did more, all we would do is get more control over your dog, and everybody's life with their dog is different. Okay.
Ish.
So I look at it as the 6 classes is walk my dog, go to the park. 9 is walk my dog, go to the park, go to restaurants. And then 12 is I do everything, including off-leash hiking, going to the dog beach, going to restaurants, going on picnics. Like I do everything with my dog, right?
Okay.
Most people fall in the 6 to 9 class range.
Yeah.
Because very few people need their dog to be completely off-leash for life.
That's true, but that is my goal. So I'm thinking for obedience purposes, for these immediate things, jumping, not paying attention to me, not being able to refocus if it's something, that he really, really likes, that I want to tackle first. And then the other ones, it's just like,
Icing on the
icing on
cake.
the cake, exactly.
Right, yeah.
But I do take him everywhere, literally.
Sure.
Unless I can't.
And if you do your homework, okay, I'm not the type that goes like, oh, you only pay for 6, and I'm only going to give you what 6 would get you.
Yeah.
Like I build clients wherever they're at. So if I have a client that came from another trainer and I can see that they got a foundation, they end up getting a lot farther because even though they're only doing 6, there's already a foundation, so I'm not going to reset them completely.
Yeah, okay.
I'm building off of what we have.
Right.
In your case, if you took them and you did your homework and you're diligent, and you're like, hey Jesse, I got this, then I got this, then I got this, then. I don't sit there and go like, well, okay, we're just going to review because you only paid for 6. I go like, great, let's move on to the next thing.
Okay.
And more simply put, if you do your homework, heel, recall, and stationary work allows people to do almost everything with their dog.
Okay.
So there's what I call a trifecta.
Yeah.
Walking with me, not pulling, come when I call you, and don't move. Those 3 things allow you to pretty much take your dog anywhere.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Because there's 6 commands: sit, stay, down, come, place, heel. Sit down and stay are like, they're used, but I'm like not really worried about them. Place, heel, and recall, those 3 things are what allow people to do almost everything with their dog.
Okay.
Okay, so that we can get done in 6 classes pending you do your homework.
Right.
Okay, that's the biggest factor here, is I can only take you as far as you're willing to go.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things with remote collar is that people get the impression that they're hurting their dog.
Yeah.
And I tell them like, well, dogs bite each other.
Yeah,
You know.
that part I'm not too worried about because that's actually my theory, which a lot of places don't really believe. If you look at a wolf pack, everybody gets to do whatever they want, but if a beta encroaches somewhere or
If they
something,
pass a boundary.
they get, they can feel it.
Correct.
The alpha, so that's okay. That's kind of my philosophy of training a little bit.
Yes, and in my book, that's how that works.
Okay.
So like, this is a dog bite. Okay, this is 10 stitches. Okay, this is from a Great Dane, which everybody knows, yes, exactly.
Okay.
So any dog and every dog can become aggressive. Okay, this dog was not aggressive. Okay, what happened is that, so they hired us to do a 4-week board and train with him. It was his first day. He took very well to the training, no problems. But he had never been in a kennel before. He was 1 year old, unneutered. He destroyed their house. He like chewed everything because he had no structure.
Yeah.
So all I was trying to do was see if he would fit in the kennel. Okay, and he had never been in one, so he freaked out, and he bit me so that I wouldn't put him in the kennel.
Right.
Okay, does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Sure.
Right. So he didn't like sit there and say, Jesse, you're making me uncomfortable by like trying to put me in his kennel. He just was like, you know what? I don't want to go in there. I'm gonna bite you. Right. That's dog. So e-collar allows us to, I call it a bite on a button, where it allows you to be physical without being physical, so to speak. Okay, but if a dog can bite me for trying to just put them in the kennel, like why can I not correct them using an e-collar or a prong collar? Okay, so and dogs correct their puppies as young as 3 to 4 weeks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They're super young.
That I've seen.
Yes. So it's just a matter of, are we doing it correctly? Because the dog has to understand how that works.
Yeah.
And the way we discipline versus how they discipline tends to be different, which is why I'm here, because I help people learn how to correct their dogs in a fashion their dogs would understand.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing in your case is the harness reinforces or creates more reactivity. Because when you pull back, you create more frustration. So if you should decide to move forward with training, you wouldn't need the harness. For now, it's fine to use. But once you start the training, because if you
I put it on so that, because most people want it, so I actually put it on him because I thought you would be like, oh, you need to get a harness.
No, that's garbage.
I usually just...
Unless he's going to pull a sled or he's going to pull like those tires for exercise. Harnesses are worthless as training devices.
I think so too.
Yes. So because he's such a large dog, I most likely recommend you do remote collar with prong collar in the beginning. It'll give you more physical leverage because with the harness and or a collar fitted at the base of his neck, when he goes like this, that gives him the most leverage over you. And by using the prong, that gives you more physical leverage over him, okay? So that would be in the beginning, and then you let me know how you feel. So if you're like, hey Jesse, we used the prong collar for the first 2 weeks, I walked him without it, he's great, I go, then you don't need it, okay? And some clients will use it like if it's a quick potty break and they don't want to put on the whole e-collar thing, which to me doesn't make sense because it's just one collar. But then you got to turn it on and everything. Is the prong collar is a nice kind of backup for those quick 5-minute outings. And it's mainly because of his size. Okay, because like let's say we start to use the e-collar on him and maybe he's flighty, he wants to run away from it. Well, now you got what, like a 90, 80-pound dog trying to pull you to run away, which is natural instinct. Is physically you're gonna have a harder time trying to contain him. Whereas the prong will help counter that and give you a bit more leverage. Okay. We tend to train out at Oz Park, like we're gonna be there today, and I don't think it's even gonna rain now. I like to train at Oz Park because it's so distracting there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So are you familiar with Oz Park?
Yeah. I've been there before, but we live like by like Sheridan Diversity with all those parks there.
Oh, sure. I got you. Yeah. So Oz Park is not far from there.
Right.
Busiest park in Chicago. Skateboarders, rollerbladers, bikers, dogs, people off-leash dogs, parties, yoga classes, like all these things going on. We train there.
Yeah,
okay.
That's good.
Have you seen any of our videos?
I don't think so. No, I haven't.
So if you go to my website, canineperspectivechicago.com or canineperspective.com, and you click on any video that you see, it should take you to my YouTube channel. And you'll see all the videos of the clients that we're working with. And you'll see them numbered, lesson 1, lesson 2. Lesson 1s are always great to watch because no one knows what they're doing but me, okay? And you'll see us at Oz Park, and you'll see, all the distractions going by, which is why we train there. So you're real time in a very busy environment training your dog. I don't need to touch him, I coach you through it, okay? So you're doing everything hands-on. And it's the main thing is that it's you doing it, it's hands-on, and you're going to get results as long as you follow the instructions. So like, let's say his number is like 60, and then you feel bad because you're like, it's 60 out of 120, which is the range of the collar. Well, human logic is like, oh, I feel bad because I'm at 60 and it goes to 127, so I'm like half the power, right? Is people tend to go lower. So when they come back, I'm like, well, how'd it go? They're like, oh, it was a terrible week. I'm like, well, how high did you go on the collar? Oh, we were at 20. Well, 20 is not 60. And that's why it was a terrible week, okay? So, but when we approach it, we always start low, and then we work our way up. Similar to like they approach humans, like the spin. They start low, they work their way up. And then you would tell them, that's too much, that's too little, or that's just right. Same thing for training the dog, okay? He tells us what's too much, what's too little. So when we're working with him, you're kind of learning all this real time yourself because you're doing the training.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I give you your homework. You go off for the week. You practice. You come back. We do a quick review, and we work on the next thing. Okay. If something should come up, let's say you see a reactive moment or something, and maybe it's a really bad reactive moment, and you're like, "This is very concerning." We would just, shift gears and work on that. As long as we've covered the first class, the next classes I can pretty much go any direction.
Sure.
So we can just kind of play it by ear. I don't think that's going to be the case, but just so that you know, for the most part, we can just do whatever that's needed. You've paid for my time. I just show up. Heal has to happen.
Okay.
Everything else is kind of based off of that. Okay. Questions about any of that stuff?
No, I got it.
For the collar that he would need the big boy collar.
Yeah, I actually think I have one from a couple dogs ago, the prong collar, and I have that Sid collar.
So the Sid collar is
different?
garbage.
Oh, okay.
It's technically meant for like a 35-pound dog and under. It's a low output collar.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The prong collar from your previous dog, as long as it's probably like a 3 millimeter. Is it the bigger one?
Yeah, it's the bigger one.
Okay.
Big dog.
So you can use that one, and then I'll most likely help you fit it to his size.
Right.
And then the e-collar you need is the Dog Black Edition. Okay. That's meant for 70-pound dogs and over.
Oh, hold on. I'll write it down. How do you go? Okay, sorry, what is it again?
So it's going to be Dogtra, like dog, D-O-G-T-R-A, Black Edition.
Okay.
And then you can get them on Amazon, or you can get them here. I don't care where you get them. I just care that you get the correct collar.
Right.
Okay, because it's going to make a big difference in your training.
Okay.
The difference is the Sit collar has I think 7 levels. And I think there might be low, medium, high, which would be 21 levels altogether, right? It also has a low output, meaning it's meant for smaller dogs.
Yeah, got it.
That is high output, meaning it's for dogs his size. It's 127 levels. So we have 106 more divisions to fine tune it to the dog, okay? And I know the Sit collar, I've had people use it and it's not good, okay? So the Dogtra, it's an investment. They run around $330-ish with tax, but they last for a really long time. I've had mine about 8 to 9 years. The only issue I've had is the battery died, and I called up Dogtra, and it was like 20 bucks a piece to replace the battery for my remote in my collar. Otherwise, they work just fine. Okay. So that's the most common thing that we see is the collar does the battery. It's like a rechargeable lithium battery for your cell phone. It's a similar thing.
Oh, yeah.
Is that over years they get worn out, but it is rechargeable. Okay. So they last for a really long time, pending like you're not dropping it or anything.
Yeah.
It's a fully waterproof system, both your transmitter and your receiver. It's a 1 mile range, so plenty of range for the average family pet. And then it's meant for a dog his size. Okay. If you got a smaller collar, you could be, let's say he's like super excited, you could be like an 80 on the collar before he feels it. Whereas on the higher output collar, he could be like a 30 instead of 80.
Right.
Okay. So because they do in sizes, there's like for 15 pounds and under, 35 pounds and under, 70 pounds and under, and then 70 pounds and over.
Right.
Okay. Questions on that?
No, I got it. No, I'm just sad about the price.
Yeah. And I think the Sit collar is kind of up there too, but it's a garbage.
Well, that's why I was hoping to like get away with it.
Yeah, if you had a high output collar,
yeah,
but trust me, because then the thing becomes, let's say you start out with the Sit collar and it's not working. Well, now we've just used a class or two and you've wasted them, and now you gotta.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Yeah. So I'd rather you have the appropriate tool and come in and know we don't have to worry about anything, and then this way you get your money's worth.
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions?
No, I think I'm pretty clear on everything.
Okay.
The only like bad thing that if he doesn't learn, it's not going to be him, it's going to be me if I'm slacking off.
Yes, the dogs, and so one of the most common questions I get is when does the e-collar go away? In my book, when you need it, it doesn't. Okay, so what this means is if you're out on a walk with him, because there's so much different stimuli every day, you need your collar.
Yep.
But it's not that you're always using it. It's
Right.
simply present, okay? So going back to like driving on the expressway, most people don't know the speed limit, right? Almost everybody speeds. And then we see a squad car, what happens?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody slows down, right? Because nobody wants to get a ticket. So I like to call it e-collar or cop on a collar because the presence of it tells them like, hey, we have threat of consequence, right? Otherwise, when it's off, he's going to push the boundary. If he's a great dog when you're home with him, you don't need it.
Oh, that was actually my question. Should I just leave it on and then take it off at night? You know,
typically only when you need to use it, okay? Because I'm going to give you inside the home. Let's say you're trying to work from home and he's trying to bother you. Well, technically, you don't want to have the collar on him 24/7.
Right.
I would give you other means of correction.
Oh, okay.
Just because it's simply like, I don't care what you do, but don't bother me while I'm working.
Right.
Right? Like if he lays down on the couch, like,
Yeah.
I don't care. Just don't bother me while I'm working, right? So that's a bit more simpler.
Sure.
So I would help you, I would give you answers so that you're not always having the tool on. If a friend or friends are going to come over and he's going to be super excited, you have the collar up because now there's an external stimuli that's affecting his behavior. Okay, so the reason is opportunistic behavior. All animals do it, like I just mentioned with humans. If we don't see any cops, we speed, and then we see a cop, we slow down. That's opportunistic behavior.
Right.
Same thing for dogs. Okay, so it has nothing to do with my training methods or the tool. It's just if he can get away with doing something and not be given consequence, why not? Okay. But if you're doing the training correctly, you shouldn't have to always be using it. Right? It's just present in case something happens. Or like, let's say you're just sitting there and someone blindsides you and just starts to like pet him and he becomes reactive and you want to correct that behavior, we can. Okay, but technically that's not his fault. But you can still disagree with the behavior. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
When it comes to scheduling a time for training and everything, Maria handles all that stuff. So with the consultation, there's like the 5 to 7 day turnaround time to get on the calendar. And then, so let's say you decide to move forward, there's going to be another kind of 5 to 7 day turnaround because there's been more consultations that have come through, clients that are signing up before you and our current clients. So then once you're back in queue again, Maria will reach out and say like, hi, like, here's what Jesse recommended. Let me know your time frame in terms of, or your availability in terms of scheduling for training. If you want to be ahead a little bit, if you know you want to do 6 classes or whatever that number is, you would just email Maria and tell her, hi Maria, I would like to sign up for 6 classes. Please let me know, and here's my schedule. And then please let me know when you're ready. So this way, when you come up in her queue, she already has that information, and she's not emailing you waiting for you to respond. She already has it, and she can just send you the contract and already start booking for 6 or whatever number of classes, and then provide you with the information for the collar as well. Okay, and then once you're locked into your time, because we do a recurring time most of the time. Like let's say if it was Friday at 5 p.m., every Friday at 5 p.m. for 6 weeks of that is your time. No one can take it from you. +1, we always do an extra week, just in case if you get sick or if you have to reschedule because something came up last minute. So it's technically, you get 7 weeks of priority. If you've canceled a couple of times, you don't lose the classes as long as you've canceled outside of the window. We do a 48-hour window. Because if someone canceled on me last minute, I could be stuck at Oz Park with an hour and nothing to do. So, but yeah, once you're in the calendar, you're set, okay? Unless you have like a rotating schedule, then you have to coordinate with Maria. But otherwise, once you've got your training floor.
So that's very unusual.
He just got surprised.
Oh, yeah.
So, because he was like sleeping, and then Andy walked up, so that's just him getting caught off guard. Like even my dogs are barking.
Oh, okay.
Those are my dogs in my office.
Oh, okay,
right
okay.
Yeah.
Right, knock it off. Hey.
Yeah. But like stuff like this, like let's say he became reactive like that, with the e-collar you can stop it.
Right.
Okay. But again, like he just got off guard.
Hubert, knock it off. Hey. Okay, very good.
Other questions?
No, I got it.
Awesome. So if you need anything else, you can shoot us an email. Maria will get in contact with you.
Yep.
And if you forgot to ask anything, you can shoot her an email as well.
Sure.
And when she has time, she'll go over it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she'll handle any kind of scheduling or anything like that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm pretty committed, so I'll do the 6 weeks, and then like, I feel like I'm gonna want to add on like 3-week things for, like, I don't know, some trick.
Completely up to you.
Whatever.
Okay? Completely up to you.
Yeah.
I don't care. I know for what you're dealing with, I would just recommend 6 at least.
Yeah.
Okay? And then he like knocked your water bottle underneath your chair,
Oh,
just so you don't leave without it there.
thank you.